Well, good evening, folks. Welcome along to your Friday night random rabble. I say random because I'm on and we don't have a clue what we're talking about, so we're going to go as random as we can. I'm joined by the lads. Now, I felt out of place. I just chucked a hat on an intro there because the boys came in with hats on, so I was like, I'm not sitting by myself with one. So I'm joined by Lewis and Kenny. Lewis, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've got a new setup. Finally got a webcam. So I don't look like I'm, coming off a walkie-talkie or coming off a camera for the 2 decades ago. So hopefully it looks and sounds a wee bit better.
And I would say we're joined by Noel or Liam Gallagher, but it's also Kenny. Kenny, how you doing, mate?
I'm glad London just put up a comment asking if I was going to Ibiza. No, it's a wee Oasis tribute. This is our first night back after so long. I'm a mad super fan, so I thought I would clam the two together, a wee Rabble and a wee Liam while I'm at it.
Well, there you go, mate. We're looking good, supporting the bucket hat. We look like Stuart's on his holidays, but we're here anyway. So we're obviously going to do a bit, as Martin's kindly put in the comments, transfers rain. Oh, that he's disappeared, that one there. Transfers rain in India, beating England in the cricket. What a week. So we're going to talk all about more of the transfers because it does not stop, boys, doesn't it? No, we just seem to be getting linked to every player under the sun, but in no so typical Rangers fashion. We seem to be actually making deals happen pretty quickly now. They're not being announced like they were before. There'll be a lot of speculation, a lot of talk, but some of the boys that have been brought in, they're brought in after hours of speculation. Aye, cheers, boys.
Who's that going to? Who are you throwing at it?
We've got you, mate. We've got you, Kenny.
I'm enjoying it because if we all remember late 90s, early 2000s and that, the press really didn't have a clue what we were doing. We basically were telling them when the players were coming through the door, whether they were taking a photograph at the bottom of the marble staircase or whether they were maybe getting a bit of windy at 24 hours before it happened. So I'm glad we're back to that. I don't mind a bit of Fernandez, take him, he's crap, I'll drive him to Ibrox, because they probably said that about a shed load of folk we brung in that done us all right. We are kind of all the way back to Waghorn, to Windass, to Goldson, to all these players that done us a turn. They weren't even Tavernier. They were all sitting on the bench, warming benches and things like that away back then. So, listen, the end of the day, too many times we went to buy players where he's a baller, he's this, he's that, he's the next thing, and he comes up here and he's absolutely mincemeat. So I would rather just let the process go and see what these players are all about. But I'm glad the press are heavy clickbaiting all this and trying to guess who we are going after. I think this is a way that I enjoy Rangers, and I remember it's been far too long, boys. It's been far too long since we've kept them guessing, isn't it?
That is right. I mean, look at it before the takeover was announced. Look how many players we were linked with, and the amount of those boys now, Lewis, that have actually died down. We'll not get linked with them anymore, but it seems to be now, if we're linked with a player, they're almost certainly coming in the door.
It does. It looks like that shift that you mentioned there certainly happened, because we were linked with every Dick, Tom and Harry, before the takeover was official, and I don't think any of the guys ended up coming in. So there's definitely a shift, and it was quite exciting to see the two boys come out of the blue. I mean, Rothwell was 24 hours and he was through the door, and then Fernandez was just absolutely out of nowhere. So it's nice to see that the ball's rolling. I'm more greedy though. I would like to see at least another 3 or 4 in before Panathinaikos, and then I can maybe settle down a bit.
I think that's right though. We're not sitting here all confident that we can actually go and do a shift now. We need more boys to come in. We've always been linked with a lot. I went on to see what transfer were linked in, and my phone went a bit mental. I was like, holy, there's so many names we've been linked with, but Fernandez, Kenny, was so out of the blue that wasn't linked with us, wasn't hinted at all, and Rangers just put out another one after we'd signed Rothwell. Went, right, here's another one, and it was just so out of the blue that here you go, here's Fernandez. Is that what we expect for the club now? Just announcing signings, try and avoid as much speculation as we can, announce a signing, and then get the boys onto the pitch and go, because these boys only signed a couple of days ago, but there's already training videos that you're seeing of them. They're out and about, they're actually training, they're getting involved. How many times have we sat here and gone, right, we need to see them, but in actual fact, they don't even get a sniff because they need to get acclimatised to the way we play. Russell Martin's got these right out and about amongst the squad straight away.
I think it's all relevant. It's new to us, but it's probably been in the background getting fished about for a while. The likes of Jiga and things like that, they're going to bring a bit of experience. I know it sounds crazy because he only plays bit part for Wolves, but I think the likes of Fernandes is going to learn off your Codys, off your Big Soapy and things like that. And I think that's where we've got a lovely little balance, hopefully, when we start bringing players in that we can't allow development now, whereas we're throwing these players in at the deep end when we get told we didn't have the budget we did. When we come on, we're starting to buy a few players in. I really think it's interesting. It's a very similar story that happened with Leeds United. I really like to comment there because I was going to come on to that. Remember in the one of the pods, I think all of us has said it at least once, when they sold 4 or 5 of their top stars to make the money to get by 6 in, came to Christmas, they bought another 2, but there was no really big signings. The Leeds fans thought they won the league. So they stripped out the superstars, made the money. Their recruitment was very, very clever, and they won the league. So maybe we're in that area where we're going, didn't see that coming. Who the hell's that? What's this going to do? And they might be very hard-working players. Your Rothwell one is, even when I think Craig Harrison had asked one of the supporters clubs, didn't he, put it in the WhatsApp chat and asked what we were getting, and they said the guy just basically has got an engine and he just doesn't stop, and he's got a good pass in the ball. He doesn't waste the ball a lot either, and he's pretty decent at free kicks. So there's a way. I like the enthusiasm, if anyone watched the Rothwell interview, of how he spoke about the manager he nearly came here, but he always swore to himself he would have a chance in the Premier League first. That was a shocker to me. I never even got wind of that. No supporter got wind that he was on the fringes of coming to Rangers. So I'm liking what I'm hearing. These guys aren't coming in. I'm also liking the fact that we're not heard to the manager saying I had to just sit and look into their eyes to see if they wanted to play for the Rangers, and all this bollocks. So it's nice to just get a player in, and we need to educate ourselves like everyone else. It's pretty exciting, It's exciting times.
Definitely. Isn't that comment you were alluding to was a super chat from Charles when he was saying Leeds fans have said the transfers they bring in aren't big names, but they always do a job. And I mean, they've obviously done enough of a job, Kenny and Lewis, that they've won the league by bringing in these boys that on the massive names, but they've won the league. Rothwell was one of the biggest influences in that team. He's a man that's played a lot of games. A lot of times we see ourselves, Lewis, bringing in players that have played a handful of games and think, can they get game time here? Rothwell's played over 300 games in his career, and he's a player that's rarely injured, rarely misses a game in the season. I think he played 40 odd games for Leeds last season. It shows that he's got an engine, and that's exactly what we need in the middle of the park right now.
It definitely does. I think he's prior to seasons, he's won the championship and been promoted from the championship. So you've got a guy in that knows what it takes to get championships out of the line and get promotion out of the line, and it's something that is going to do you in good stead if you come to a club like Rangers, because the demands will be very, very familiar to him, hopefully. I can't wait to see Rothwell play, because there's a lot of mixed opinions on the profile of player he is. I mean, some people are saying, a couple of years ago he was maybe a box to box or an attacking midfielder, but from what I know, last season he was a 6 almost, and that's why his numbers, maybe I think he's only got 3 or 4 assists, but that's because he's a guy that sits in front of the defence and mops up all the danger, and is also good enough on the ball to distribute play and start play for there. And we spoke about it on the podcast since the manager came in, that's a massive position, and it would have been a bit of a waste to see Nico Raskin, if he does stay at Rangers, playing that position, because I think we all agree that he's better affecting the game a wee bit further forward. And if you've got somebody as good as Joe Rothwell to sit there and do the dirty work, then it allows for Nico Raskin and Mohamed Diamande to get further forward and make things happen. So I'm actually quite excited by this signing, and seeing modern day football, 30 isn't as old as it used to be, so still a good few years we could get out of this guy.
I mean, definitely. I mean, hopefully we're going to get a few years at him. But I'll come back to yourself, Lewis, with this one. There's another name we've been linked to. I've obviously played a lot of Premier League experience. He's got a lot of Championship as well. But David Brooks, good winger, a position we 100% need to fill. Obviously losing Václav Černý, only 27. Again, we seem to have just be gone into Bournemouth and gone, can we have some of your players, please? Because it's another Bournemouth player that we're going, let's go for him. Obviously, massive interest in Championship clubs from him. Could be a great player if we can get somebody like David Brooks into the club.
Now, we've just spoke about there that the board at Leeds, they didn't exactly go out and buy, statement signings, and it was more guys that could just do a job and guys that they could develop. This guy would be a statement signing. I believe if we got somebody like this over the line, it would be a pretty exceptional bit of business. I'm pretty sure he's left-footed and he's played on the right side as well. So, I mean, it's probably the number one position I need now. Now that we've got some centre backs in, that right-sided winger is the absolute priority. And to get somebody like that over the line, and obviously the personal stuff that guy had to go through just to get his career back on track as well. I mean, it's some story. Guy that's had Premier League and Championship experience, put up good numbers in the Championship, and it would be a tremendous signing.
Lewis, I'll jump in there. You would agree probably that it's the right place and the right time for a wee guy like that to put some wind under his wings, isn't it? Well, the shit he's went through, I think playing in front of those fans and those type of occasions would maybe give him that lift that he's maybe searching for, wouldn't it?
Aye, I think so, because I think when he initially came back for it, I don't think he's made himself a starter in that Bournemouth team, and you can't really blame him. I mean, it's hard enough to come back for that as it is. Never mind getting into a really, really improving Bournemouth side. I mean, a team that have players that have went for 50, 60 plus million pounds. So you can't blame him for not being able to get back into that side. But do you get much better than coming here and playing in front of 50,000 fans every week and being in contention for 3 to 4 trophies? How good we've been in the Europa League here the past 5 to 6 years. I think it's a match made in heaven if the fee and the wages are correct.
The type of player he is, though, Kenny, he'd get consistent football week in, week out, because he's got a great engine on him, great bit of pace, and he's got a finish on him as well, Brooks. But I think this is a perfect fit for him. Seems to be that the way the manager's setting up right now, he'd see a lot of the ball, but the amount of chances Rangers create, he'd have a great time in front of goal. Tierney didn't get off to the greatest start for us, but I think Brooks, he's obviously played in the Championship, he's played Premier League football. It's got to be the right fit just to get up and get straight in. See if we only get him for a year or two and we can sell him on, it'd be great. But he's definitely a player that you can see getting on that right-hand side, just up and down the wing constant.
Yeah, I agree with you boys. I think he's a wee gem, and I think inevitably for a young man to get through what he went through, took his confidence and battered that slightly. Also, I think there's a bit of a trepidation with other managers taking chances on him, which I think is wrong, but it is football, cutthroat, somebody's waiting, all the rest of it. I think we're that club that could, enlighten him once he gets the atmosphere under his belt. I like the guy because he's direct. We've not had a direct winger since Candias. I was always screaming, I don't understand how we haven't had a go at Mr. Boyle for Hibs. I really, really, truly don't have a clue what we're doing. It would cost a few £1 million and you would get him for a couple of seasons. He would terrorise the wingers, the left backs. But I do agree, little Brooks could be a little gem. It gives you the connection of the Championship to Premier League players again, so they would link up play would be good. I'm really, really chuffed with the type of player we're buying. It's almost an Eddie Howe-esque as opposed to a Mourinho coming in and trying to buy all these named players that might not suit the Scottish League. It seems to be there's an identity getting built with the type of Brooks and Dowes and Rothwells and these type of players that he's trying to get that are very good in the ball technically, but also they know where the pass is, but they know when to pass at the right time. The strengthening of the back four, every one of us have said in the pod that Rangers would have been a different team points-wise over the last year or two if they locked the back door. Mm-hmm. If they locked the back door, we probably would have gained confidence going forward. Probably no dropped as many points against other opposition than Celtic. So I'm actually, I'm really excited. If I'm going to not get too excited with the Brooks one, boys, because it's one that I would probably love to happen. And I hate that when I do that and then the next minute he signs for Hull. Oh, inevitably that might not be happening for a while.
So a player that we've been unbelievably heavily linked with, Lockeye of you wants to ask, would you like to see Vardy coming in or should we be going for a younger striker? I'm going to throw this one to yourself, Lewis. So we've obviously been linked heavily with Jamie Vardy, unbelievable goal scorer in the Premier League. He's obviously won the league. Time and time again, he stepped up for Leicester and he's carried that team for a number of years. But we spoke about a lot on this pod of getting rid of Cyril Dessers because he's 31. We need to get somebody a bit younger, but then all of a sudden we're looking at somebody who's 39. should we be looking at somebody like Jamie Vardy, or should we be look at the view saying go for somebody who is a bit younger? And I will say thank you very much for that £10 super chat. Should say that as well. There we go.
I think it's a situational thing with the Vardy transfer. I think, if we lose Iggerman, Jamie Vardy should not be his direct replacement. It should be Turgelman, for example, because we're losing a 22-year-old, so we shouldn't be bringing in a 39-year-old to replace him. But if Cyril Dessers was to stay at Rangers for this season coming, hopefully he would play backup, and that's what I would like to think Jamie Vardy's role would be coming into Rangers. I know he played a lot of football last season, but at that age, you just can't rely on somebody at that age. And as I say, I would rather put my finances and my first priority into somebody that's going to replace Iggerman and be here for the next 2 or 3 years, rather than a guy that's going to come in and be here for maximum 2 seasons. But that doesn't also take away from the fact that it'd be a really, really good temporary transfer for a season to just fill a gap until we have more finances to spend in that position in the coming season after this. It's the same with the goalkeeper. Like, I would love another goalkeeper because I don't think any of the goalkeepers we have are suited or good enough to play in this system. But there's too many other places that need surgery, and I think that's the same reason why you would bring a Jamie Vardy in, because he's a good temporary fix. And I mean, one of the best stories, if not the best stories in football, and for him to come here and play for Rangers, it would be a nice wee addition to that story.
That'd be unbelievable if we could get somebody like that. I just think I'm in the camp of, I think he's getting to that age. He's 39. The league is completely different to the way it is in England. All it'll take is somebody just to go through the back of him, and he's out for 5-6 weeks, even longer, with our track record at Rangers for injuries. Is it a way we can actually afford to pay? Surely we should be looking, as you're saying, great shout with Turgelman. We've been linked with him for a lot. Obviously, the clubs can't agree on the fee, Kenny, but it's got to be a signing we look at. He's one that's for the future. If we can get him in here for a couple of seasons and you make good money, but look at Iggerman. We've only had him a season, and the fees that have been quoted for him is astronomical. If we can get somebody like Turgelman in, get good fees for him, then why go for somebody who's got absolutely zero resale value?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to deny the fact that Vardy's a phenomenal striker. I know the rest of it, and would he score goals in Scotland? Of course. There's strikers there that, if we're looking at like Asgard for Luton, I don't understand why we're looking at Adebayo for Luton, big striker up front. I mean, they kind of strikers for me should be who we look for. These players that are maybe coming out to the end of their contract, he's an absolute born winner. He can score goals. He's also a very young player who is very similar to, is it Semenyo, which is a guy for Bournemouth. Is it Bournemouth? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was who my wild card would be, is to go after a man like that, because nobody's sniffing about him yet. He's proven goal scorer. I think that the time they went up with Luton, he'd scored something like 8 goals or something like that in the season in the Premier League, which is pretty tasty for considering they get relegated. I'm way loose. I think direct replacement, no. To have him run about the club, probably, but depends what we're going to pay him. It's all very well having a marquee signing, but a marquee signing for me would more be the Brooks idea, somebody who you wouldn't expect to come, but but he's young, he's fit, he's wanting to resurrect his career. I'm not so sure about Vardy's for me. It's just personal. I just think it's no. The likes of the guy for Luton, Adebayo, that's the kind of player I would look. Somebody fresh like Turgelman. These fresh, young, hungry players that are going to just completely and utterly run their socks off, like Dessers does. Just completely and utter non-stop up front, so that you've got somebody to take if it is one of those sticky games where you're getting smothered for the midfield, for the defence, you've got somebody to hit the ball to, who will hold it, who will get a breather in the team, and we can reset and go again. I'm not so sure I would have for the way they're talking about with the financial side of things, the platform they've got and the model they want to bring in. Does Vardy fit into that model? I'm not so sure. So he's no one for me. I'm not saying it's no for everybody, but Vardy's no one for me, boys. He just isn't.
No, there's a few in the comments. Obviously, the guys are saying, like Mark, for example, he's saying that he's on mega wages and we'll be able to get him. Well, he's out of contract now, isn't he, at Leicester? He thinks he's going to go to Burnley. So it's obviously that there's going to be competition for somebody like Jamie Vardy. It's whether or not he wants to come to somebody like Rangers, because Gallatin, he would take him I just think that there's a comment, is it Paul? He's saying he would take De Jong. Again, he's another Vardy type striker in the terms of he is getting on. I think he's only 31 or 32, but we need to be looking at a lot of future. There was a man you mentioned, Ken, and I want to throw this straight back to you. You know, Thelwell, a great young talent. I think it's 5 million that we've been rumoured to pay for him, but he's only 23-year-old. See if Rangers are managing to pry him away from Luton. That's a great bit of business if we can actually get him in the club, because he's going to be, I think he'd be unbelievable for us. He was great for Luton, he was great for Wigan, and I just think that if we can get him in, he's going to be a bit of a gem for us, because it's one of those players in the position we're struggling on right now, because who's on that side? Cortez and Matondo. So we've not got the greatest left-hand side. If we're going to put a guard over there, I think he's going to be unbelievable for us.
Nah, he's a top player. The one thing I've tried to watch as much as I could on him, and the one thing I like about him is, again, he's so direct, but he seems to invoke fouls all over the place. So I mean, this is a big reason why Man City's making a right tit of themselves. No playing Grealish. It's the same with a guard. I've watched him. He drags these players in and makes them make mistakes, and he's not frightened to take a kick. He's happy for them to bring that mess to them, so that we end up with positional play in all different areas of that park that then starts some sort of movement or attack. And it's the same with City. That's the reason that they're not doing as great. I'm telling you, I know Rodri's off, but it's the same with City with a guard. That's the first thing I thought about when I watched these videos about his Luton career and that so far, was that this boy will come at you, twist, turn, but he's doing it in maybe a little pocket where there's a diamond, and these players are all putting their foot in trying to get a hold of him, and they can't, and the next minute he's getting a foul for his team. That's invaluable in football these days, because it just completely breaks down any tempo that maybe, say, you had a really tough game against like Hearts or St Mirren has bogged you down and they're trying to hit the counter, and this wee guy's running into little pockets and taking the free kicks and slowing their momentum down of the opposition team. So I think that's another one. Young, hungry, potential, and a great potential for sell-on. So, yep, I'm happy with that one if we get it.
Biggest issue with that one, though, Kenny, is that we don't get fouls. So he's not going to be drawing any fouls because we don't seem to get them anyway. So he's not going to draw any of those fouls. Very true. I completely agree. And Lewis, he's obviously looking like he's going to be suiting Russell Martin's style to a T. He seems to be fitting the criteria right now of young boys that are obviously playing at clubs that are not getting much game time but are showing a lot of potential. If they're going out on loan, they're doing that as well. And you just hope that if we can get somebody like a guard, he's going to fit in straight away, because see, when you look at I've seen some of the games he played and I've seen a lot of the highlights and stuff, he loves to just run with the ball. See if he's not got the ball, he doesn't seem a happy boy, but see when he's got it, he just runs at defenders. And a lot of the time, that's been one of our biggest issues, is that we get somebody in an attacking position, a player starts to run towards him, and we turn back and go towards our defence. A guard does not seem like a player that's even interested in doing that.
No, it certainly doesn't. And you know, I'm like Kenny with the Brooks transfer. I'm trying not to get too excited about this one, because I've done a wee bit of a deep dive on this guy, and I think he's something we've been missing since Ryan Kent was at his pomp. You know, somebody who's direct, but direct with quality. It's not just mindless running. He's got very, very, very two-footed dribbler. You know, I mean, some of the stuff he ranks really highly, progressive carries and successful take-ons, he's in like the top 8% of players compared to him in Europe. And that's elite level stuff. You're talking, there's very few players in Europe that have the type of dribbling statistics. And it's, I mean, look, in our current team, it's Igaman and Diamande. That's it. There's nobody else that carries the ball. So see, unless you're Barcelona 08 and you can pass teams to death, how the hell are you going to get the ball up the pitch? You need guys that are going to be able to carry the ball, as well as guys that are able to pass the ball. And I think this guy is the perfect ploy to be in there. And he's a guy that could play either side of the wing, or he could even play one of the advanced midfielder roles. And see, the funny thing is, he's got the most Norwegian sounding name ever. He looks so Norwegian and Scandinavian, but he's a Scouser. He's a Scouser. He's born in Liverpool.
Yeah, he plays for the Norwegian national team. It's so bizarre, isn't it? But back to that point you just made there, though, with taking players on, if we don't bring in somebody like Agard, you're losing 50% of that if we lose Zigaman. You're losing 50% of that take on. So we're expecting to just get the ball to Diamande every game then, Kenny, because if he's the only player that's going to take on, we've got players that are coming back from loan and we've got other players that are coming in. There's players that we could talk about in a minute as well, but are we just expecting Diamande to be the playmaker? Because I don't know if he's got the composure to do that every game. A lot of times we've spoken about it that he has a great game one week, then all of a sudden he just switches off.
Aye. There's a lot of rumours about this guy as well, isn't there, with transfers and stuff like that. It's went slightly cold and quiet media-wise. I don't know. I think that's because basically your transfers are like popping popcorn in a microwave, man. There's that many things happening. The press can't keep up at the minute. They're not sure what to print. But I'm not sure what's going on because it seemed there was quite a few tabloids saying that he was Moyes was quite happy with what he saw. But I don't know, man. The boy's a player. He was brought in here to develop into something better and move him on, like Kigaman was. But unfortunately for they two and us, he had to be like thrown in. I'm glad he was Wigaman and that, and you can see the talent on the two of them with Diamande. I think Diamande is a baller, by the way. Honestly, I think there's a player there. You can just see it. I think it's very difficult when you walk out a Dream Academy or whatever it was he came from and walk into the Scottish Premier League and go first team football in months. I mean, that must be unheard of. Come on. I mean, there's no way. However, it's going to benefit us. I think this guy could link really well. And we've got to remember, we've never really had an expansive squad where if anything went wrong, we could bring these type of talents off the bench to keep going and maybe try and win in all fronts of tournaments and leagues. So I'm quite happy if he kept where he was, especially if the likes of Rothwell and him were very similar, because you know yourself, it's a long season. There's a hell of a lot of games now. But I would like to keep... That's it. Oasis tribute. You can ask it because Gilly's on the text there asking what my hat's all about, but he's like 85, so he probably doesn't even know who Oasis is. Sorry, Stuart.
This has come up a lot. I want to bring this comment up. It was also a super chat, but I wanted to bring it up. I'll throw this one to yourself, Lewis, and Kenny, feel free to jump in as well. A lot of guys are asking about the dream would be Brooks, Tierney, and Sima, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. But a lot of guys are saying we would take Sima back on a loan. He's only got a year left on his deal with Brighton, so it's one that you could definitely look at because he's a player that had a phenomenal time in Scotland. We only got him for a year, but there's a lot better players that are coming in. No better players in terms of the way that he played because Sima was unbelievable, but see for injury record and impact that they could have, see if we're getting in the likes of Brooks and Asgard and other boys that we're going to talk about, they could be brilliant, but we're never going to get somebody like Tierney back because the club just don't seem like they want to ever pay that fee. But is that the right move to move forward rather than get these two and Brooks in the club?
I know a lot of people have a really strong opinion on going backwards, and you'd probably say 6 or 7 times out of 10 going backwards isn't the right method for transfers. But I mean, that's a crazy statement. Tierney was arguably their player of the year last season, but he's to their own. I mean, permanently, absolutely no chance because they three would cost upwards of 20 to 30 million to get they three in. And I just don't think that's ever going to happen in Scotland, never mind right now. Sima coming back on a loan is a really, really good transfer. Really, really good transfer. You know, this is a guy that performed for, you know, I'm not going to say the name of the team because I'll get a few giggles at the name of the team that he was playing for last season because everybody's immature on social media, but we all know who he played for last season in the Champions League. They were one of the biggest overachievers in that Champions League.
Who did he play for? Isn't it Michael Richard?
And he had a really, really good campaign with them. And again, like I said, that's in the Champions League as well. And he was one of their better players. So Sima coming back is a really, really good signing. A very, very good signing. He's one of the few that coming back would work. And, you know, we need wingers galore. I
mean, Kenny, this is a comment that I think yourself and Lewis just couldn't agree with, but nobody wants Tierney back. He wasn't consistent enough. That's just unbelievable comment, that, isn't it? Like, for me, Tierney was one of our most consistent players. Like, the amount of opportunities and goals he got for us was unbelievable. Some games he did looked like he wasn't trying. But it goes back to a previous comment you made, Kenny. We didn't have anybody to come off the bench to give these guys a break.
Honest to God, I think if you had, and you've got to remember the players on the park and all letting a boy down who maybe we were leaning on far too much, and he still managed to become, as Lewis said, our player of the year in my book as well. I honestly think the guy, if we could invoke a rest in him, there was players that held the ball up a lot more, allowed him to relax a lot more into the games. We didn't lean on him as much. I honestly think he would have been even better than he was, which is some statement to make. So Czerny in a team that's fresh, new, and firing on all cylinders, I would take all day long. Sima, I probably wouldn't go back that way because obviously I don't think it's going to fit into the type of blueprint this guy seems to be putting together. I'm just, I'm happy enough if they bring Czerny back. Unfortunately for us, as Lewis said, the money's going to be nuts now. He's put himself in the short window. He's done really well. I'm not sure that has he went to another club yet. No, is it still
where he is? Still at Wolfsburg
in Germany? Aye, no, well, I don't know. Again, he's probably we're only surmising because we don't know. I mean, the right wing positions, maybe he's already got 2 or 3 that he's looking at that he's wanting to put in there. Again, we'll not hear this until somebody says we've signed this guy. The way it seems at the moment, it seems as if the door's shut in the media to Ibrox at the minute, and they don't know anything, as well as us. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts that are trying to find out exactly whereabouts we're going, what we're trying to buy, where we're trying to buy from, and it's only come to fruition basically the day before we sign them or a couple of days before. So Czerny, yes, Sima, no for me.
One thing that we'll be linked with, Kenny, is Nasser Giga that played with Wolves last season on a season-long loan. He's obviously a centre-back, and he's as a player that he's only 22. He could be great for us if we were able to get him in the club because he's obviously got the Premier League experience. He's got the experience of playing at the back. I don't think he would take a lot to get in here. Burkina Faso centre-back. He plays for the national team as well. I think he'd be great for us if we could get him in.
He's a big boy and all. He's a lumpy boy. So he has somebody.
I have to look down whenever I look at him, so he can't be that big. I have to just look down.
That's half of Britain. So it is. But no, I think you put in a centre back in there with that size and stature and a bit of experience. It does only good for Fernandes. It takes a bit of weight off Soapy, and then hopefully if Cody comes in, I think that would be okay. And I agree with that comment very briefly that the Asgard and Brooks would be 2 phenomenal signings for Rangers as well, just as it come up.
We've got to say hello to the host and the owner, the main man himself, Martin. Martin, how you doing?
Look, you're not going to Turkish barbers anymore. Look at that. That's a good one. You're making too much money. That's a rebel. He'll do that, even though I shouldn't say that in this podcast.
I mean, I would be making too much money, but it would appear now that you can just run a podcast and go whatever time you want on YouTube. It would appear that the times aren't set anymore. They don't matter. So everybody watching, just to let you all know that I'll be picking and choosing my times in which we go now. Clearly to some people, they don't care. So, and they're all about themselves. So, yeah, there was always a long-standing tradition on YouTube that everybody had their place. And if there was any issues, you would message each other, say, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? But somebody out there just thinks he's a wee bit too big, a wee bit too popular, and a wee bit too it. He just goes at whatever time he wants. So we'll just go at whatever time we want from now on.
Well, I mean, phoning an hour and a half before we're meant to go live, that's also something else to do, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Alex. You are right, my friend. You are right. But from what I hear, you've done a very, very average job. So,
I take an average job. That's all right, innit? There you go. Well, we're just talking about some of the signings that we're looking at, some of the players we're linked with. Martin, what's your take on some of the boys? Obviously, we spoke about Asgard, we spoke about Brooks, we spoke about Nasser Giga as well from Wolves. What's your take on some of these boys?
I mean, I would refer my answer to Lewis, but this Giga boy, Lewis, I've never seen him. I'd never even heard of him. He's not played really for Wolves. He's mostly played, I think, for Red Star Belgrade. But again, from what I can grasp, Lewis, another big, commanding player, strong, physicality, quick. And it would appear that seems to be the way now, Alex, that we're going to go, especially from a defensive point of view. It's clear what they want. They want big, strong players back here. They want guys that aren't going to be bullied. Because if you remember back to last season, it wasn't just the defence, right? It was the whole team, granted. but the defence get bullied. How many times did Proper get bullied off the ball? How many times did John Souttar lose the ball in the air, or even John Souttar getting bullied? Yilmaz is the same height as Lewis. It was never going to work moving forward if that's what you wanted from a successful team. So it's clear that there's a clear plan there that the defence has got to be big, resolute, solid, and have a bit of pace about it.
It's always been one of our biggest issues, though, and it was last season, wasn't it, that we didn't have any real ball playing centre halves that could carry the ball out from defence without causing us any issues. Because how many times did it look like Butland or Kelly were going to pass it to our back line, and they never did, because they didn't trust the two centre backs. They would punt it long, or they would try and give it out to Jeff or Tav and get them to carry it. The amount of times that we put ourselves under pressure, Kenny, was unbelievable. You hope that the centre backs we're looking at and bringing in are actually going to do a job and being able to show this defence up, but also get us the goals up the other end, because Fernandes has come out and said that he wins most of his aerial duels and he's got a goal in him. So you hope that they can actually show that in this Rangers team.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all very well looking like the side of a fridge freezer, but if you get absolutely no brain at the back, then what's the bloody point in going on the park? And that's exactly what we had, these boys.
That's how I never made it, Kerry.
That's because your head was in the fridge freezer.
That's probably why I never made that.
It's totally true, though, that we bring these players in, and if you're a defender in any shape or form, that's your position, then surely to God, in this modern day, you've got to be clinical, smart, intelligent, strong, quick. We had none of that. We had panic, and we had decision making was all over the place. The easy ball didn't seem to be the one they wanted to take. They wanted to make a long ball or a ball out to the wing when somebody was marking. So I'm interested to see what the education of these players are like. Never mind how big they are or whatever else. Just are you calm under pressure? Are you good at the ball? Do you lose the ball a lot, or are you going to be helping the man to your right and your left? Are you got a fake in you where you're going to put it across to the midfield, or what? That's the type of thing where, if you look at good teams, they move the team they move the ball from the back to the wing of the front within 5-6 seconds. So that's more important to me than the pressure all the time. And also a trust bleeding through the team, because I think a lot of the passes and the panicking was because where they were going to put the ball, they weren't quite sure if that player was trustworthy enough. That was horrible to watch. So I'm hoping we maybe get a kind of different mentality in these players. That's probably more important to me than strength and all that.
What was the thing, Alex, that we lacked most last season, would you say?
The creativity, I think, from a lot of our players.
Would you not say that we lacked a little bit of pace?
No, mate, never lacked the pace.
I would say we lacked pace, and I'm delighted, by the way, that we've been rumoured to be interested in this guy, because I've heard he's rapid, right? John Swift.
I just knew the way you were screwing your feet.
I know, you're setting something you could tell, right? That's us, we're ending it.
You could be sitting there like that, ready.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
He's coming for all of 5 minutes, and he's lost it already.
That's the only reason he's come on. To hit us with this joke.
I was trying to set that up without laughing or smiling, and it just wasn't happening. Oh,
he knew if he did that in the comments that they'd just been ignored, but he had to come on just to get that out there.
Oh, do you know what? I make myself laugh. That's all that matters. I make myself laugh.
Do you know what? That goes back to the super chat from Charles. You've got to say thanks very much, Charles, for the super chat. But it's Martin again.
Don't be scared to use the word fanny. He's correct. He's correct. But so is Charles. So it's all good.
Right, we're getting the handbags out here, because it's from the minute you put a comment in the comment section, Charles has been all over you. So we're getting it tonight. But
Charles would love to be all over me, and he just won't admit it.
I didn't pick those words very, very well there, didn't I? No, just set that up. I will say though, Lewis, when you look at some of the signings that we're getting in from Russell Martin, they're very much trying to work on the spine of the team. We're trying to get centre backs, the number 6s, number 8s. We're obviously like a lot of forward players as well, but he's just trying to get this spine working, because it was all over the place last season for a large majority of the game. We've got a lot of boys just piling forward and putting long ball in constant, but he's actually trying to get the team solidified right along that spine of the park before we start looking out wide?
I mean, we went for being linked with one centre back to being linked with about 65 centre backs, and we've brought in 2 already. We've got, hopefully Cody and Giga coming in as well. And it's obviously you start for the defence because you win league titles with a solid defence. Attacks can only do so much. You need to keep it tight at the back. And I don't know if any of you noticed that. I thought that the training videos looked a lot more intense. They looked like they focused on a lot more running and a lot more emphasis on passing. And something I spotted that I quite liked is that the goalkeepers were actually involved in the passing drills, which I've never seen prior to Russell Martin coming in.
Lewis, were you surprised that they showed as much as what they did in the training videos?
I was surprised. I was quite surprised. I think the whole media system, but like Rangers for this upcoming season has been revamped massively, and I don't know if that's the American influence wanting to get a bit more outreach to people and show a wee bit more behind scenes. But I was surprised with the amount of content we go to the training videos. I wasn't complaining, but if we continue that, I think it might start to show some weaknesses if we're not performing and the manager's trying to change things, and then people can pick on that. So hopefully it's just a be something we can get to see during pre-season, and that's it after this.
Right, I'm going to leave you to it, guys, and go and finish off what I was doing. Just wanted to say a big massive thank you to everybody who's chose to tune into the Rabble tonight, because there was another option that went live at exactly the same time. Hence why we moved time to 7 o'clock. Well, this other show decided, we'll go at 1:15 one week, and then we'll go at 7 the next week. So who knows what time we'll go at next Friday? I have no idea. It's a lottery. Try and keep up.
Some man, isn't it? Some man.
I know it's a very sticky subject, right? But you think the other pod wouldn't piss us off when somebody had an MK47 at the background of his pod one time last week? Is that too soon, that joker? No?
That's why he's not back on. He's not led on the Friday night show now. Just no led on anymore.
That's far too soon and probably just outdone everything that I've just said, Kerry. Thank you very much.
That's why Kenny's got the bucket hat on. That's all that is, isn't it? Just wanting to throw
Brilliant.
it right.
Mad for it.
I love it. You've got to say though, some of the signings we've been linked with, there's names that won't go away. One of them I've seen pretty much since the start of the transfer window was Moutinho. Don't know much about the boy, but it just seems like we've been linked with this boy constantly. Obviously, a 22-year-old defensive midfielder, but he's just constant, Lewis. We don't seem to get away for this boy. Plays for Basel right now, and he just seems to constantly be linked with Rangers. Do you think this is one the club are looking at?
I don't think so. I think he's a spillover from the previous regime, because I'm pretty sure it was Coppin that first identified this boy. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look at the targets that Russell Martin's been looking at, it's been solely English league or English nationality players. So I think this is just somebody that we were linked with before, and it's just continued to be lazy media that we're linked with him again. And to be honest, he's not somebody that impresses me. I don't think this is a guy we should be looking at. I think he's had quite a difficult couple of years. He's not really been performing to the levels that somebody that we should be looking at. If you can't do it in the Swiss Super League, you're not going to do it at Rangers. And we've already brought Rothwell in. I think that's a position that, see if nobody else leaves and we don't sign anybody else in the midfield, I'd be perfectly happy to go with what we've got right now. I think if you start the first official game with Diamande, Nico Raskin and Joe Rothwell, that's a pretty damn solid midfield. Probably the strongest we've seen since the Gerrard heyday, I would imagine. There's always been a weak spot in the previous midfields. I think this midfield covers all bases pretty well. And see if you take the shackles off of Diamande and Nico Raskin, imagine what they two are capable of. Because the Lord would have been capable with the shackles on the past couple of years. So it's really, really exciting to see what that midfield is going to be able to do next season, if that is the three that we keep.
You've got to say, Kenny, see if you can get that midfield, as Lewis just said, of Diamande, Raskin and Rothwell. See if you get them firing. That's an unchanged midfield three for the rest of the season. See if you get the three of them actually playing to the potential they can. That's an unchanged midfield pretty much all season. because there's potential in there. They just run every game, don't they?
I think what's the wrong way that way. I think what Lewis said was bang on. The reason that Gerrard done so well is because he plucked these players that he saw that would be hard-working and very technical in the ball from the English League who weren't getting games, and put them with the odd foreign player that he thought would be of similar. It does, Lewis, have that feel to it. I agree with you. It has that feel that there's a philosophy being built rather than just buying players to fill a need. It's as if he's got this thing he's wanting to try and put together. Listen, I'm not saying it's going to work, it's going to be great, bed of roses and all that trebles. I'm just saying that there's an identity coming here that he already knows the nucleus of the team and who he trusts. And let's not be kidded, any elite manager goes through countless amounts of film to watch and all backdated games and look for positives, and there was many negatives and things like that. I know they're saying they're a Rebo in that, but there's loads more than that he started firing about. And it kind of all started with, dare I say, at Warburton, where he was starting to show that there's these players that are sitting about doing nothing who could really do a turn for you if you've got the right scouting network to do it. I love the fact that he's got these, it's always to do with physicality, hard work, no give-in attitude, these type of players he's trying to go for. So I don't know much about the defensive side of it, right? So hopefully that's right. But the Rothwell idea and your Max Aarons and things like that's players that completely and utterly never give in. So if we can get that mixed in with your Diamandis or your Raskins, at least, I mean, on paper, Raskin and Rothwell, to me, that could be something really special. I think Dowell was brought up here because they thought he was a Rothwell player, but he's not. I think this is actually the type of player we've been looking for, who can mop up the gaps between either strike and mid and defence and keep everything flowing. As you said, Alex, there's a nucleus of players there that will definitely do a job. And do we know how much potential they have? Probably not. Hefty, Cortez, who's to say he comes in here and gets a tune, and it's not the first and it will not be the last time a manager walks into a squad of players that we didn't really see the best of and starts getting a tune. So you never know what he's going to do. I was actually surprised that the Ben Davies has still got the price tag on him, because I honestly thought that Russell Martin would look at that type of player and try and bring the best out of him rather than sell him on. I know it sounds crazy, but I honestly did. A lot of these players we saw were playing in teams of a lot of players giving up. Positional play was terrible. They weren't playing to their maximum. So some of the players that were bought, if they were in a different team, I think you might see something different. And I'm hoping that's the case with the nucleus of players we've still got to what he brings in. But again, I'm going to say it again, I'm with Lewis. I think we're still at least shy 4 players until we can start to say, right, we've got an expansive enough squad to go after league cups in Europe.
What I wanted to ask you boys about, and I'll go to yourself first, Lewis, was we've seen in a lot of these training videos, and I don't know if it's just because it's the number he's put on, but Max Aarons currently wearing the number 3. Now, obviously, we have a left back who wears the number 3 and has done since he came in. But what does this spell for Ridvan Yilmaz? Is this just going to be that he's been given a number to put on for training, or is he actually been taking the number 3 jersey when he starts and Ridvan Yilmaz is on his way out? Because we've not actually seen much of Yilmaz at all, and yet Aaron's already got his number on.
I mean, that's something that I don't think we'll actually know the answer to until the first official game has been played. If Russell Martin's been ballsy enough to make a move like that, I mean, that would spell the end for Ridvan Yilmaz for me, if he's saying to him, like, man, your numbers getting too cappy, because that's a starting number. Like, in an ideal world, you would give the number 3 to one of your 2 starting fullbacks. So I think that if that was the case, it would spell the end for Ridvan. But him and Jeffy and Aarons have all been involved in all the training videos that I've seen so far. So it doesn't look like there's anything to be done there so far. I mean, you haven't seen Dowell, you haven't seen Davies, you haven't seen Dessers, Egerman. These are all guys that are rumoured to leave, whereas Yilmaz has been in the 2 videos that I've seen so far. So unless there's something being done in the background and Ridvan just wants to keep his fitness up with Rangers, then it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. I do agree with the comments that it probably is time up for Ridvan, and it's a shame because stylistically he actually really suits the new manager's system with that inverted fullback. He's probably perfect, to be honest, but the wee man can't play more than 8 games in a row in a season, and for the outlay that we have for him. If there's interest in anywhere in Turkey for a couple million, he needs to be sold.
I completely agree. I think that the wee man's he's got a game in him. He does. See, when he was playing at right back last season, he showed that there's a player in there. But as soon as he takes a tackle, he just seems to be out, Kenny, and it doesn't seem like it's worked for him. Maybe he goes back to Turkey and it does work. But as you said there as well, there's some boys that are coming back that we've not seen. One of the players I forgot was even going to come back was Jose Cifuentes. Forgot he was even coming back to the club, and he's a player that can Russell Martin get a tune out of him, or is he just going to be on the chopping block to get straight back out, Kenny?
Played 25 or 27 games for his club last year without injury. No saying it was the best, maybe a leagues or whatever else, but he's still fit. So I don't know. I mean, again, we've seen all these players coming in and out in average Rangers teams, so it's very difficult to judge these players. And if they do shine in these type of shine,
there you go. There's the first one.
If they do shine in a type of Rangers team at the moment, then they must be really good, because it's not exactly been it's not been setting any benchmarks of late. But I do believe one of the big problems we need to stop is the position you were talking about, Yilmaz and Yefte, and that is completely ball watching when the ball's on the other side of the park and letting their man behind them have about 10-15 yards every single game. Exactly. And so I don't know. Do you know what? I'm going to sit back with excitement to see if we can pull any magic out of some of these players that are sitting about, especially we've not seen nothing really out of Cortez. Cifuentes never really showed as much. Again, it was a poor team, so every player was getting danced about. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure about Cifuentes at all. Personally, I'd rather just take the money from them. They couldn't afford them. They should have just dropped the price and just get them out and off the pay deal, as far as I'm concerned.
Before we disappear tonight, there's obviously a game happening on Sunday that'd be good to talk about, because obviously we've got Bruges at Ibrox on Sunday. Hopefully we can actually start to see a bit of what Russell Martin's got to offer this club, what the players are going to offer, and just get a bit of excitement back in, because although we've had all the transfer speculation, we've had all of the takeover talk, and that's obviously happened, there's not really been much in the way of a game list to actually sink your teeth into. So for the first time, we're actually going to get to see the Russell Martin formula, and if we can get this to work in Scotland.
I am actually looking quite forward to the game for a change. I'm usually not that fussed about pre-season friendlies, but just with the fact that we've got the Champions League qualifier so early in the season, it'll be a decent barometer to see where this team is, and it's also a positive that we've managed to get a few signings in beforehand as well, because I think it would have been quite dross to look at if we didn't get any new faces before this first friendly. It would have been a hard watch. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing the new guys. I'm looking forward to seeing what Russell Martin does. I hope I get to see at least 10-15 minutes of every single player, and then it's just about building fitness and getting more signings in, and looking forward to that Panathinaikos game.
I mean, I'm just happy to be back watching Rangers football. I've not really watched much. I didn't watch the Club World Cup, so see, just getting to watch it pre-season or no, again, it's just a good chance to watch a game of football back at Ibrox. But I'm completely with Lewis. You want to see at least some of the boys getting, well, everybody, not some of them, everybody getting at least 15 minutes just to see what they can offer. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see like change of formations in games, change of personnel with different positions, just to see where people can actually play, if they can play multiple positions. But if you're Russell Martin, you just want to make a good first impression. Yes, it's no opener against Motherwell, but it is going to be a competitive game against Bruges. You want to make a good impression.
I know, to be fair. I think it's more going to be for the coaching staff, this game. I don't really think they'll give a hoot about us. Yeah, Rangers fans, way bring him out a wee game. I think it's more to see what he's wanting to do, try things, see who he can trust, all this kind of stuff. I think it's going to be very, very good for him to try and get folk A, up to match fitness, and B, see what and where he is. And it will help with decision making, I think, on players that he's getting linked with and what they're doing. I would love to. I think we will see a plethora of different players moving on and off the park. Again, as much as it's good for him, it lets us see what we're getting. It's not going to be, as Lewis says, a pre-season friendly. It's a lot of guff. You don't really you can't judge nothing on it. But for a team that finished first and second consecutively on the league last couple of years, you're hoping for a bit of a game at least. I'd like to see Cortez out there. I'd like to see. I mean, I don't know if Cifuentes is even back in the country in Glasgow. I couldn't tell you. But any players that we didn't really get to see, I'd like to see him run them out and see what he does with them, and what kind of formation he's going to play, who he's going to put where. Fernandez's little introduction on the Rangers page said that he would see us on Sunday, so fingers crossed we see him. I would agree with Lewis again. I think we'd like to see these players just briefly to see what we're up against, what their touch is like, their movement off the ball, but it's more a kind of training exercise in a game scenario for the management, I feel.
I mean, it's probably more of a training exercise for Panathinaikos more than anything else, Lewis, because that's right around the corner as well. So hopefully we can get a few signings in even before Sunday, and if not, before we get Panathinaikos, because this is going to be getting the boys registered as well, because they have to be registered to be able to play. So we need to get them in enough time so that they're actually able to play in the pre-season, because in the pre-season and in the qualifiers, you don't want to get boys in and then they can't get a game.
I know, it's just that's the trouble where the domestic game in Scotland is at the moment, that Celtic have just been absolutely dross in Europe for about 2 decades, and we've tried to claw back the coefficient on our own, in the last 5 years, getting to a final, getting to a quarter final, getting into groups 5 out of 6 times in the Europa League. It's just a sad state of affairs where the Scottish game is right now, that this is the situation that we're in. So it's going to be really difficult. We've been used to playing upwards of 60 to 70 games a season. It's not going to be any different. It's just try our best to get through that first round, and we're at least guaranteed the competition that we've made our own for the last 5 years. And I think I would be happy if we got 2 or 3 signings in. A right winger is crucial. We just simply cannot go into that Panathinaikos game without at least one right winger in through that door. That would seriously worry me if we had to line up with Oscar Cortez and Rabbi Matondo as the 2 wide options. Get a right winger and a couple more, and then we'll take it for there.
See, to be fair, I might be in the minority here, Kenny, but I actually prefer Rangers playing in Europa League. That way we at least get the Thursday, Sunday. Seems to be a competition. Anytime we play in the Champions League recently, we've made a bit of an arse ourselves, and we just seem to be able to run it. Yeah, you want to be in the pinnacle competition, but see, until we start getting the DNA back in this club, I think we're very much suited right now for the Europa League. And look at the teams that play in it as well. There's so many massive teams that are in Europa League. Look at it last season. Like, there's so many massive clubs that don't get Champions League, but it still gives it a bit of credibility, and I think it's our competition.
Yeah, it's a very prestigious competition now. There's a lot of massive clubs in the Europa League. The Champions League would be nice just to even get through, just get into it, take the money, come out, get into the Europa. That's fine, but it's a very difficult competition for a very obvious reason. It's sometimes just a bit too far for us, especially when we're doing another rebuild. But again, you've got to fight for what's in front of you, and that's there to be taken. So the Thursday nights are Rangers nights will stick with us for a long time. That commentary was phenomenal, and it's stuck that way for a long time, and it's been almost, dare I say it, a nice little charm for us. We've always played really well on a Thursday night, and I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. For me, I think the Bruges game will be a lesson learned, and the Middlesbrough game will be adding players who we get between now and that game towards the Panathinaikos, and a little bit more of a hostile game. I think it'll be more heavy game mentality because they know that one's crawling ever closer. So I'm going to the game on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to seeing some of the players. I think, again, I will reiterate it, I think the Middlesbrough game is going to be the one where you see maybe the newer players coming in to get put together and see if they can gel and things like that, because I think you're only going to be able to see 1 or 2 of the new players at the moment, maybe through fitness or whatever else, I couldn't tell you. But it's all good, man. It's all good. It's all positive. I mean, it's not as if we're sitting here talking about really a lot of negative stuff. I mean, think where we were 6-8 months ago. So it's pretty cool that we're sitting and we're having a conversation about who we're buying, where they're going, what we need, and it's all relevant.
No, definitely. I think that's probably a great place to end it there then, Kenny, with that last point. It's all about looking forward to the future. We're on a high now. Let's see how far we can go with this Rangers team. I will just say thanks very much, boys, for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate it, Lewis and Kenny. And obviously, the manager himself making a wee guest appearance, just have a wee moan, make his wee joke, and be swiftly punted away. So, very much thank you very much for that, guys. I do appreciate every comment, all the super chats as well. We will be back tomorrow with a random rabble at 11 o'clock. Is it, boys? 11 o'clock. And then all your build up and a watch along for Bruges on Sunday. So until then, Kenny, Lewis, cheers, boys. And we will see you all very, very soon.